The Minister of Finance, Ofori-Atta, is expected to present to legislators revised estimates on the performance of the economy he presented in November 2019. Although this is normal practice, the impacts of the coronavirus pandemic on the economy makes a review of economic figures for the remaining 6 months of the year inevitable and much more critical. For instance, in 2020, Mr. Ofori-Atta anticipated that government would rake in an amount of 67.1 billion cedis as revenue, while an amount of about 86 billion cedis will be spent on various projects. This in itself presented an initial budget deficit of 19 billion cedis, which is the difference between the revenue and expenditure. For Dr. Adu Owusu Sarkodie, the presentation should see a review of all key economic indicators. These include growth rate, primary balance, budget deficit, revenue and expenditure target, among others.
We should expect very significant revision of all the figures, which were stated in the budget for this year. So you can pick it from the macroeconomic targets. GDP growth rate will obviously be revised downwards. I think the Bank of Ghana said that it will be revised. We are likely to get only 1.5% by the end of the year. But I strongly believe that we can do better than 1.5%. Reasons being that the lockdown is lifted and Ghana's economy is largely informal. So when you have lifted the lockdown, you have allowed people to do their day-to-day activities, economic activities, though it may not be as if we are living without the virus, but we can do better than 1.5. Inflation is obviously we might miss the target. It might be revised upwards. Exchange rate to depreciation to the same thing. Interest rate, I am happy that the policy rate has been reduced with a corresponding reduction in the interest rate. Then you can talk about the fiscal figures. I mean, the revenue targets will be missed. Borders are closed, so the revenue that you would expect from the borders are all not going to be realized.
Already, Mr. Ofori-Atta has outlined the margin of reduction expected in some projected revenue from taxes, both oil and non-oil. Also, this has forced him to make some projections on how the drop will impact the budget deficit for the year. For instance, import duties are expected to drop by 808 million cedis, while total revenue excluding oil is expected to drop by 2.25 billion cedis. The budget deficit, which is the difference between the revenue and expenditure, is also projected to increase by 11.3 billion cedis, representing 2.9% of revised GDP for 2020. Dr. Adu Owusu Sarkodie tells Citi Business News the Minister of Finance may fall on the 9.5 billion cedis coronavirus alleviation program plus the 10 billion cedis support from the Bank of Ghana to finance these differences.
The virus has thrown off gear our budget, and therefore government already has instituted the coronavirus alleviation program, and we requested 9.5 billion Ghana cedis from Parliament. He's also asked the Bank of Ghana to give Ghana government 10 billion cedis for their 3-year program. So we will need that supplementary budget to plug all the loopholes, tight the knots. Where we feel that we are falling short, we must use the funds to, shore up. And when we feel that we are doing better, I'm not sure which sector we are doing better now, but we obviously need a supplementary budget.
Meanwhile, he says the steady pickup in economic activities, especially in the informal sector of the Ghanaian economy, the earlier projected losses could see an improvement when the finance minister appears before Parliament.
Research has indicated that countries that have performed very well in terms of emergency cases are countries that solve the pandemic and also revive their economy simultaneously. So it is good that we have opened up our economy. It's good that we are doing businesses, and at the same time we are adhering to the safety protocols. So I believe that the revisions that he presented to Parliament in March will also be revised. I'm not sure we are going to stick to the same figures. You mentioned 30 billion budget deficit. You mentioned the shortfall, revenue shortfall from imports, or let's say international trade taxes, direct taxes, corporate taxes. They will all be revised. But this time around, I think the revision will be better than what he made in March. And I mentioned to you that in March, the Bank of Ghana said we might grow at 1.5%. And I believe that based on the performance of our first quarter, we may do better than 1.5.